Now, a question that I was asked the other day was, Coach, how can I be a 1,000 yard wide receiver this season? So, we're going to be talking about some different things that you guys can do to get more targets, to get more separations on your routes, because that's ultimately what it comes down to. If you want your quarterback to throw you the ball, you obviously, to be able to get 1,000 yards receiving, you need to have targets. You need to be able to get open and consistently get open. And getting open comes down to two specific things. Obviously, your route running technique, but also having a plan off the line of scrimmage and knowing how to beat different types of DBs. So, we're going to be talking about three different types of DBs today that you will be faced with that you guys can have a strategy to ultimately beat. So the first DB we're going to be going over is a physical DB who likes to lunge off the line of scrimmage, get hands on us right away. We're going to be looking at this clip here from Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, obviously best wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, consistently putting up 1,000 yards plus, could probably end up getting 2,000 yards this season if he ends up staying healthy. So let's talk about how you could beat a physical DB. So when a DB lunges at you off the line of scrimmage, you have to understand, you guys, that is not good technique. When a DB lunges at us, you got to watch this DB's base as he lunges, right? Because he's in a pretty good base. You could tell pre-snap that he's probably going to try to get physical because we're in this stacked formation. A lot of DBs try to get physical to try to disrupt this stack, to try to disrupt any type of kind of misdirection or confusion that we're trying to do with our route combinations. You could tell his weight's shifted onto the front of his foot. His heels are off the ground. That obviously tells us that he's going to be lunging at us. Now, the most important thing is that like I said, when he lunges, guys, he is foregoing his base. His feet are no longer under him. He is trying to muscle us and ultimately get hands. So as a wide receiver, we can never go backwards. We have to always maintain a good pad level position like you see Justin Jefferson do right here. And you see his hands aren't in that cliche, oh, have your hands up by your chest. His hands are right there by his knee, kind of relaxed position. And honestly, he exposes his chest a little bit to this DB, but because he has that slight forward lean, a lot of wide receivers, when DBs lunge at him off the line of scrimmage, they start to lean back. They pick their chest up. They try to avoid. And when you guys lean back and this DB gets hands, it's absolutely over with for us, you guys. Now, let's talk about the feet, because the feet obviously tie into this release. So a popular release that a lot of receiver coaches, myself included, that will talk about when you have a physical DB who lunges at you is something called a step back release. And a step back release is where you take this front foot and you essentially just step back off the line of scrimmage, create some space for yourself, make a move, and then go get up into your route. Now, some receiver coaches hate that. And those of you watching this probably know exactly who I'm talking about. The older school guys who are like, oh, you never want to do that. It'll waste time. You always want to go forward. And I don't necessarily disagree with them. I just think, there's a time and place for it. But in this situation, you can't do that because we're in a stacked formation, right? You got a receiver right behind you. So we got to do something else. And that would be something called a split release. So this is one of Jefferson's favorite releases, I would assume, because he's always doing this in a lot of different press situations, which is essentially a come to balance release. And it helps you maintain that good pad level position to where you're not going to get knocked off balance, even if this DB does get hands on me and give me a good pop. So a split release is where your front foot goes out and your back foot goes up and both feet hit the grass at the exact same time. And if you can do that, both feet hit the grass and you have a slight forward lean, you're in a pretty balanced position where it's going to be hard for this DB to knock us over. A lot of guys will do this split release and they stand up. You guys want to pretend, honestly, guys, like you are underneath a small door. You're trying to dip your head down underneath a small doorway and you don't want to pop up. You want to split your feet and you want to stay low, because now if he gets hands, I could just shed his hands. I'm in a position of balance. He foregoed his base and now I could go get up into my route. So guys, when you're faced with a physical DB and you need to get separation, that is how we ultimately want to play it. Because remember, if we want to be 1,000-yard wide receiver, and especially you high school middle guys, if you're 1,000-yard wide receiver, chances are you are probably the best receiver on your team who's getting a lot of targets. You need to be able to get separation. And again, getting separation is all about route running technique, which we talk a lot about on this channel, but also it's about knowing what to do. So now let's take a look at this example here from Cooper Kupp. Wide receiver one, I would say probably on the Rams. And we're going to be talking about how you can beat a DB who's in head-up press, but it's not necessarily getting physical. He's a little bit more patient, and he's going to be running a 12 back to 10-yard curl route. Now, before we show this example, fellas, if you are a wide receiver and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we are going to be traveling out to 15 different cities across the U.S. for 2-day long QB and wide receiver training camps. So guys, if you want to sign up to train with myself and again, my staff, check out that very first link in the description below. Again, very first link below has all the information of where you could sign up, all the locations for our different camps. We're going to be coming out to San Francisco, Orlando, Florida, Phoenix, Charlotte, Austin, Las Vegas, Seattle, Chicago. Then we'll be heading out to Newark, Birmingham, Houston, Boston, Columbus, Boise, and Los Angeles. So guys, take advantage of this while we still have spots available. Very first link in that description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our off-season camps. Let's get back to this Cooper Kupp route. So now now on his route here, obviously he's going to be running a curl route, and we have a head up press guy. So I talk a lot about and we're going to talk about it later in this video, different leverages, right? The DBs will show. They have inside leverage. They have outside leverage. You know, they're shaded like off the, like pre-snap, a DB is shaded, because what I'll tell my receivers, let me backtrack here a second. What I'll tell my receivers is pre-snap, when you come up to the line, you want to look for two things on a DB. You want to look for his leverage. So is he shaded inside, or is he shaded outside, or is he right up in front of me? And then I want to look for the distance. Is he right up on the line? Is he 2 yards off like this example? Is he 5 yards off? Those two things are what I want to look for, because that's how I can ultimately structure my route based off of that, right? Now, if he's head up like this, and I have to run an inside breaking route, like a 12 back to 10-yard curl, I would not obviously want to take the outside release. I would want to try to set him up outside and take the inside release. Now, if this DB was inside shade press, I know his goal based on his leverage. That's why I want to look for that as a wide receiver, is to take away the inside. So if I see him shaded inside shade, I know I'm probably not going to get to the inside release, because this DB is going to keep that leverage, get hands, and force me way inside. And I obviously have offensive line over here. I have linebackers over here. I can't run this curl route way over here. Right? Now, same thing. If he was outside leverage, I'd give him a little move, take what he gives me. But since he is head up, I could kind of go either way, and that's when it's based on the route. Generally, which way you release, outside or inside, is based on the DB, unless he is in head up press. And when he's head up, it's based on the route. If I have an outside breaking route, I'd love to set him up inside, then release outside. If I have an inside breaking route, I'd love to set him up outside, then release back to the inside. And that's what Cooper Kupp does. So now, whenever you're working against a press coverage DB, you want to think of your release like you have 3 driving lanes, right? So you got the DB who's in the middle lane, you got the far right lane, and you got the far left lane. From a receiver perspective, obviously us looking at the screen, but you know what I mean. So let's say this is from a receiver perspective, this would be the left lane. If I want to get this DB to jump to that left lane so I could take the inside release, I actually got to step there with my feet. A lot of wide receivers, what they do is they take, like he's doing like a release I call a triple step, where he's just essentially going, he's going to step with his left foot, right foot, left foot. So it's 1, 2, 3. So he comes off the ball and it's 1, 2, 3. And on the third step, we're trying to make this DB think we're going to the outside. Now, notice how that step, again, is all the way to the far left lane. A lot of receivers will do that triple step release and they stay inside the DB's frame. It's just step, step, step. That's not going to get him to bite. We actually have to bring my body. We actually got to bring my feet all the way to that far left lane, because that's what's going to ultimately get him to move. And if we could do that versus head up press, you guys, that DB has to honor it, because there comes a certain point where he has to commit to whatever we're doing off the line. He can't stay patient for forever. And if he does want to just sit inside, next time I have to work an outside breaking route, I can just take off and go, because if he's just going to sit like that, then we know we got him to the outside, easy money. But Kupp does a great job setting that up and is able to win on that inside release curl. So again, guys, remember, getting separation so you could get more targets, more receptions. It's all about knowing what to do off the line of scrimmage. Great example of Cooper Kupp, how to run a 12-yard curl back to 10 versus head-up press coverage. So now we're looking at, again, another example of Justin Jefferson. Now, this is when, like I was talking about, we have to understand the DB's leverage and the DB's distance. So this might be also more of like a linebacker, I would say, or maybe like a strong safety. But here's the thing about it. Jefferson's running a post route, right? Or excuse me, that was the wrong thing. He's running a post route, and he has inside shade coverage, like man coverage, and this DB's probably about, I would say, like maybe about 5 yards off. So 5 yards off inside shade, and Jefferson's post is at 10. So all of that information right there factors into how I run my route, how I create separation, and we know if the quarterback can rely on us to get separation, he's going to throw us the ball, and that's what can lead to us getting more yards this season, more touchdowns, more catches, etc. So when this guy's inside shade, we know his goal is to not let me go to the inside. So if my game plan on a post is, okay, let's just run and go to the post, he ain't going to let me do that. He's going to shade, he's going to keep his leverage, he's going to get hands and reroute me to the inside of the field. So let's watch what Jefferson does. He attacks him and then takes what he gives him to the outside release. That's easy money. That's clearly a mismatch, right, you guys? Obviously, like that's clearly a mismatch, because I think this is a linebacker trying to cover Justin Jefferson. So this really is easy work, but especially for you guys that are out of the slot, like maybe you shorter guys, maybe you skinnier guys, you're faced with like linebackers, strong safeties. If you just freaking try to run around this dude, he's going to get hands. He's going to reroute you because you're smaller than he is. We can't force it. Take what he gives us, guys. It's going to be very, very easy. So Jefferson, again, he attacks his leverage inside. Make him think we're trying to just cross his face where he doesn't want me to go. That moves him inside. Take that outside release all the way up to 10. Then we give him a little move at the top. get plenty of separation, right? And again, guys, it keeps spacing on the play. You can't run your post and end up all the way on the opposite hash because you forced it versus inside leverage. So again, guys, running routes, getting separation, it's all about understanding a pre-snap plan. DB's leverage, DB's distance. How do I beat this specific DB technique? Football is all about situations, you guys, especially the receiver position. And if I could react to these different situations and play fast, I'm going to be very, very tough to stop. I'm going to have more separation, and that could ultimately lead to that 1,000-yard season that we all want.